Good morning. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about the four-step process. So this is the piece where we have a trigger or an upset, and oftentimes this four-step process is done with two people, um, but you can actually do this with yourself. So first of all, it's like really identifying the trigger and upset that you're experiencing. So if it was two people, the reporter would say, I want you to hear that I'm really mad when you do this thing. And, like that you were late again last night or something to that effect. And the witness would say, I hear you. They might say, I hear you. Is there more? So in this first piece, the trigger upset, we can really identify what we're upset about. That's probably pretty easy to figure out what we feel we're upset about um, in the current moment. So there's always going to be, step two to this would be about the underlying feelings. So if it was two people, the reporter would say, I want you to understand that underneath my attack and blame, I really feel, the deeper emotion, like maybe scared, or something like that. And then there would be like a just like when as well. So an earlier pain, when my dad left when I was 6, it feels similar to that. So the witness would say, I hear you, is there more? So we don't really need the witness to do this, but we do need to pinpoint that underneath my attack, I feel what I really feel underneath my attack. And then we want to remember a just like when. So when this thing happened in my past, it felt very similar to that. Okay? So then the third part of this is where we get into our fears, or what we like to call suspicions of self, SOS. So if it was two people, the reporter would say, I want you to hear that I've been trying to prove my fear that I'm not lovable, but I've been mistaken. Okay, so to add that bit on about I've been mistaken, because sometimes we have these fears and we keep going through life trying to prove through our hypervigilance about these things being real for us, and that's the only information we're able to take in is because of our fears. Maybe an example of that might be during COVID, people go onto the news things, and I think that there's news coming over here that says this thing, and news coming over here that says this thing, but they migrate to all the news that is saying this over here. Does that make sense? So always trying to prove that fear, that they're whatever that fear might be. Maybe I'm not lovable, or I'm unworthy, or something to that effect. So a person doing this by themselves can recognize through journaling, journal this down, write it out, and I want you to understand what the process might be for you when you're journaling. So you would write down that I've been trying to prove my fear, my suspicion of self, that I'm not lovable, but I've been mistaken, right? And maybe there's some more fears that are involved with that. So you write out those fears, all of them that you can come up with, and then always try to make sure that you really put at the bottom that I've been mistaken. And so if it was two people doing it, of course, the witness would say, I hear you, is there more? So that's number 3, the fears and suspicions of self. Number 4 is where the transformation comes from. So this is like where we transform the suspicions of self to the truth, the real truth. So if it was two people, the reporter would say, will you help me transform the belief that, and they would put in their suspicion of self, that I'm not good enough, and help me remember the truth, which would be the opposite belief. Okay, so let's say it was I'm not good enough before. What would the opposite of that be? I am good enough, no matter what anybody says, right? So, if it was two people, the witness would say, I'll help you remember the truth that you are good enough, no matter what anybody says or does. Do you accept the truth that you are good enough? And the reporter would say, I accept, or don't, the truth that the opposite belief is that I am good enough. So you can do this with yourself. You don't need to have someone else there to help you do a fourth step. So it's really, I want to make this video to show you the ease of it. We'll send out with all our material kind of how this fourth step piece works. But this is a little video so that you can understand exactly how this can work for you when there's no one else around. You can do a fourth step with yourself. So just as a recap, we'll go and the number 1 is the trigger in the upset. Number 2 is about identifying the underlying feelings that exist underneath the upset. Number 3 is the fears and the suspicions of self, and identifying those. And then, of course, 4 is the transformation from suspicions of self to the real truth that I am good enough, or whatever that might be for you. So I hope this helps, and you can enjoy exploring this with a pad and paper, do some journaling, and see what unfolds for you in this four-step process. Very, very transformational process. Does not need to be done with two people. So hope that helps. All right, you guys, many blessings. We'll talk to you soon.